Good evening, everyone. We've got a lot of people just coming in right now. Welcome to Utah Family Voices presentation of Able Accounts and Special Needs Trusts. We have a lot of people coming in. I would just like to welcome you tonight. Thanks for coming. And your presentation will be by Colleen Kenny, who is a wonderful parent consultant with Utah Family Voices. And she's going to talk with us all about ABLE accounts and what we can do with them and how we can start ABLE accounts and all of those great things. And she's going to also give information on special needs trusts as well and kind of do some comparisons. It's going to be a really fun night. I will turn it over to Colleen.
Hi. So I know we had a advertised and called a couple different things, but we hope you are expecting to be in the ABLE accounts and special needs trusts workshops. And this is going to be just very basic, just the things that you must know just to get started. So the entry level kind of, oh, sorry about that. Let's see. Yes, I can do that if you want to email me at the very end. I'm going to give you my email, and then yes, you can request the presentation if you want. So again, so my name is Colleen Kenny, and I am a parent consultant for the Utah Family Voices project at the Utah Parent Center. And as with almost all of the employees at the UPC, I am a parent of an individual that could benefit from special needs planning and, including ABLE accounts and special needs trusts. And so, 20 years ago, I was introduced to the Utah Parent Center when I was going through some stuff with my daughter, who's 23 now. And I'm lucky enough to have come full circle and been able to come and work at the center and kind of give back some of what was provided to me as a mom during all these years. And so as parents that that work here, we all want to make sure our kids can plan for the future without it affecting some of their possible, like their government benefits, such as supplemental security income and Medicaid, so that's SSI and Medicaid mostly. But then if you weren't aware, a person can only have $2,000 total in any bank or checking or savings account or owned real property without it affecting their possible benefits and services. So we are going to go back and forth tonight between talking about ABLE accounts and special needs trust, and providing kind of the same information on both of those so we can kind of compare them. So we're going to start with just the definitions. So first, what is an ABLE account? So ABLE stands for Achieving a Better Life Experience. And let's really kind of keep that word better in mind as we move forward with both of these investment opportunities. So again, now most of you know that, again, those, oh golly, I'm all over the place, is that $2,000 financial deeming that makes an individual eligible for what's called means-based social services. And those, again, are your SSI and your Medicaid. And so then prior to 2016, which is when actual ABLE accounts began accepting funds, there wasn't a way for people or families with special needs to save money without it affecting some of their benefits. And interesting story, so cool. This all stemmed from very grassroots advocacy. So it was started by just parents. And actually, a big part of it was this guy named Stephen Beck Jr. And it's a cool story. I'm going to tell you really quick. He was just a dad in Virginia. He has a daughter named Natalie. She has Down syndrome. And he was, as she got older and as he was getting older, he was just concerned about what would happen to her benefits if she were to receive any of his estate if he were to pass. And so he was a self-taught volunteer lobbyist and advocate for this ABLE account. And he was able to see and be in the room in the legislative session when this passed. And that was, it was actually, it passed first in the House of Representatives on December 3rd, 2014. And super sad, he unexpectedly passed away like days later. And so right before the Senate also passed this act with total bipartisan support. And then it ended up being signed into law by Obama on December 19th. It was a few days after his memorial. Usually when you're in these legislative sessions, they're very solemn and you're not allowed to clap or to cheer or to boo or anything. But the story goes that when that passed the Senate, everybody was cheering and clapping, and it was just a really emotional thing because he'd been such a big part of this, and it was not expected for him to pass away. But the thing about it also was, again, this was 2014, and it was the first piece of legislation affecting people with disabilities passed through Congress in 25 years. So this is a big deal for our families. Another piece of this is, again, some families had already started these 529 college savings plans before they even discovered that their children wouldn't be able to participate in traditional higher education or be able to utilize the savings in those plans. So again, through this bipartisan legislation, the representatives took the idea of 529 college savings plans. They wanted to add something so there was a way for people with special needs to save for their future or have money available to help them with the needs that they would have. And then, so the next one is, what is a special needs trust? So first of all, a trust is a legal arrangement, and it's regulated by state law where one party holds property for the benefit of another party. So a trust, again, in general, can contain cash, real estate, personal property, or other property that can be transferred or turned into cash. And so because of this, when you have a trust, that trust is a resource. And in the case of some trusts, there are circumstances where payments could be made to you or for your benefit from that trust. And so those are counted as an asset or as a possible source of income. Now, a special needs trust is a trust that is designed to receive and to manage assets for a person with a disability while still maintaining their eligibility for certain social services and government benefits. So it is very, very specific to that. Special needs trusts are best written by not only an experienced attorney, but one that is specialized or has specialized experience in drafting trusts for special needs purposes. Most of the local Social Security offices will have a list of groups that you can find a lawyer through, or that will give you free legal advice and services if you qualify for it. But you can also contact a state or local bar association or the Legal Services Corporation for legal services. And in some circumstances, you do need to qualify for that. But you can also get in touch with us, and we can usually offer you a few options to choose from. Utah Parent Center and Utah Family Voices doesn't usually maintain those kind of lists for services because they are out of our scope of practice. And to refer any one person or business isn't really, again, it's just out of our scope of practice. So we are not legal experts. So make sure to ask a professional to have them do a special needs trust, and ask them if they've done them before. Does anybody have any questions about that? Like, did we have questions, Tina? Okay. Whew. All right. So again, as we go through these slides, yeah.
There are no questions yet, but I did just want to make a comment on what you just said, and it's really, really, really important. I have a good friend who actually had a birth that they went to court over the birth, and there was a settlement, and there was a pretty good sized settlement, and the lawyer that had done all their work to for the settlement said, oh, I'll help you do the trust, and they didn't really clarify that it needed to be a special needs trust, and that caused a lot of issues. This child had DSPD and Medicaid and a lot of things, and they really had to backtrack and clear a lot of things up because it wasn't a special needs trust. So they basically had to hire a whole new person to do what they knew how to do. So make sure they specialize, or at least they've done one or two and they really, really know what they're talking about.
Right.
Okay, that's all.
I'm gonna drill that in later again. That won't be the last time you hear about that. So yeah. So again, we're gonna go kind of this back and forth so you can, and we will talk about some pros and cons for both investment kind of options. And then we'll kind of weigh out together what might work best for different families or for your loved one, because you might decide that having both would be beneficial. So just, we'll go through that. So the next one is eligibility. So to be eligible for an ABLE account, an individual's disability onset must have occurred prior to the age of 26. So a person can get an ABLE account if they're older than 26. You can establish an account after they're 26, as long as the disability was diagnosed before the age of 26. The second thing to that is that the individual must also have a disability that satisfies the Social Security's criteria regarding significant functional limitations stemming from the disabling condition. So this is the website that has all the codes and the diagnostic list of qualifying criteria. Now, the individual does not have to be on Social Security or be otherwise eligible for Social Security, but that is the criteria that is used. So for a special needs trust, it has to be established before the individual is 65. So again, we have that minimum age for ABLE accounts, but they also have to have that same disability that satisfies that Social Security criteria. So how do you start one? So let's say you know which type of investment account you want to open or that you want to look into. How would you go about doing that? So first, for an ABLE account, ABLE accounts can be opened either by the individual with a disability or by a third party. Because it's opened and maintained online, which means you just can't go into a bank or a brick and mortar credit union or something and open up an ABLE account like you do a regular savings account. They're done online. So the person with, just as a note too, though, the person with special needs can usually access the money if it's set up that way, because they usually work through bank transfers or what looks like a debit card. And this is where I might try to slow down a little bit. For a first party special needs trust, the first party trust will hold funds that belong to the person with a special need. So if an individual has assets or receives or even expects to receive like an inheritance or let's say personal injury recovery or something, those assets would disqualify them for public benefits. So they can go and create a first party special needs trust. So can a parent or a grandparent or a guardian can also establish these trusts for the person with a disability using the person's own assets. So something that they inherited or that they've received. In the case of some of those things, again, like probate, a court may also order the creation of a first person special needs trust on behalf of a disabled person. So the advantage of this is that if it's written correctly, it will maintain the individual's eligibility for government and social services that they might otherwise be eligible for. But the disadvantage is that this is one of the trusts that after the beneficiary's death, any money left in the account can be claimed to be used to repay state agencies like Medicaid for public benefits that are received from the agency. But a professional attorney does need to set this up. They do need to write this for an individual as a special needs trust. Same with a third party special needs trust also needs to be drafted by a professional attorney or lawyer. So the third party special needs trust is one that's actually established by anyone other than the individual that the money is being saved for. It also has to be funded with assets that have never belonged to that trust beneficiary. So it can be funded with assets immediately. Like, so if I had a bunch of money that I decide I need to put into a trust for my daughter, I can put that immediately to establish a trust, a third-party trust with her as the beneficiary. It can also be funded through a beneficiary designation in a will for later on. So we no longer have to disinherit our kids. We no longer have to have siblings fight it out later or worry about it. We don't have to leave, everything, the house and the kids, to one sibling. Like, we can now have a way to write them into these wills, into our life insurance policies, but it has to be through the trust. The trust has to be the beneficiary as opposed to our kids with special needs. So again, the benefit of this is it helps maintain their eligibility, but it also has the benefit of no Medicaid payback because the trust creator can designate who receives the leftover money after, like, the disabled beneficiary after their death. So what you'll want to do is, again, make sure that you've worked with a professional attorney who knows what they're doing, and that no personal money is left to or inherited directly by the individual that's going to be the beneficiary. So just like leave your assets to the trust, not to the individual. There's actually a third type of trust, and it's called a pooled trust, where for investment purposes, multiple smaller sub-accounts from individuals are pooled together with other beneficiaries to create a trust. And they're usually established through nonprofits. And Utah does, I think they're managing 2 right now through nonprofit organizations.
Colleen,
questions about that?
oh yeah, I'm here with questions.
Okay.
So first of all, we had a question a few questions back, and it was just when you started, and somebody had asked, what's the difference between a special needs trust and a supplemental? And I did look this up, Colleen, if you want me to quote a lawyer online.
Yeah.
So Colleen just kind of laid it all out for you. A first party trust is a special needs trust. The third party can be called special needs trust, but let me tell you what a lawyer from New Jersey says. He says, I personally try to use the term special needs trust as a way to refer to a first party special needs trust. That means that the money used to fund the trust belongs to the person that has special needs. Then I try to use the term supplemental needs trust to refer to a third party special needs trust, which Colleen did talk about. And what that means is the money is used to fund the trust, that's used to fund the trust belongs to someone other than that person. So essentially they are both special needs trusts. You may hear that third party one called a supplemental. So really good question. Then we go down to someone asked how are 529s related to ABLE, and I did let them know that they're the same type of accounts. They're not necessarily related.
Right. And they're just based off of the same kind of the same tax stuff and the same regulations on gift taxing and stuff like that. It's the way that it is invested that is the same. And by the way, so a 529 assigned to a person, with a social security number can be rolled into, you can roll your 529 into an ABLE account. You can do that.
Okay, there was one question about Utah offering, and I know you're going to be coming up to talk about that soon, so I let them know.
Yeah.
And then Todd asked, can anything be reviewed again to explain the core differences between first and third? And Todd, if you want to, get a little more into it, we can always talk.
Yeah. And again, as we go through a lot of these, I will go over them again and again, kind of. But if you still have questions at the end, we can talk about that as well.
And then one more question. Why, if the money is turned over to Medicaid with first party, would you choose that over a third party?
We'll talk about that. But there's
in
a
the
few
event
reasons.
of the beneficiary passing. Okay, yeah.
Because sometimes, again, like we don't have a choice on that. Again, like if your estate goes to probate, it will have already been assigned to the individual. Or if they're receiving, again, a settlement for something that is in their name, that is their asset. So they have to do something with it. And this is an option for that.
Holy.
Okay. Let's see if it's going to go forward. The next thing we're going to compare is some of the contributions and limits that each of them have. So for special needs trusts, any amount can be saved, and you can actually have multiple accounts. Like grandma can start an account, aunt can start an account, some just an uncle can start an account. These special needs trusts for someone, and sure, if you got millions of dollars, put it all in there. There's no real limits for a special needs trust. However, for ABLE accounts, there can only be one account per social security number. So any individual can only have one ABLE account at a time. And then each year, a total amount of deposits can add up to no more than $15,000. However, certain employed beneficiaries can also contribute additional funds from their personal income. So again, like my daughter has a little job that she has. She would be able to put money above $15,000 into ABLE if she earned that. And that's actually, there's a website. I wonder if I can get it to you without messing my thing up, or I can post it at the end maybe. It's just on the IRS website though. It's just like accounts. Anyway, I'll post at the end. And then each state also has their own limit of how much can be saved overall in an ABLE account. But another thing to consider for ABLE accounts is any amount over $100,000. So let's say like $15,000, $15,000 over a person's lifetime, any amount over $100,000 in an ABLE account will count towards an individual's $2,000 resource limit for SSI and Medicaid eligibility. And that just would cause the individual's SSI payments to be suspended until the account balance decreases to less than $100,000 again. And so then another, just to keep in mind with that, you don't always have to panic about it, because if all the other eligibility rules are followed, then the individual's SSI payments will resume when the account balance drops below $100,000 without you needing to reapply for SSI. Once a person has been deemed eligible for SSI, you don't have to reapply. You just have to like maybe do a redetermination, and that might include your financial eligibility. So it's just like a suspension period. You just want to make sure to keep in touch with SSI regarding those accounts and watch your accounts. Also, during that SSI suspension period, the individual can still qualify for their Medicaid unless the amount goes above $300,000. And again, I think that all of these totals were as of 2021. Any questions on that?
Colleen, are you going to talk about what happens if someone passes and has an ABLE account? I'm getting a couple of questions about that.
Sure will, yes.
Okay, she'll be talking about that, guys.
Yeah. So here are some of the uses for what we're going to be able to use funds. So first, for ABLE accounts, and you can see the list of stuff. And ABLE accounts are basically set up so you can use them for pretty much anything. And the last line of, other expenses, which will help improve health, independence, or quality of life. Those are good ones to remember, because it kind of makes most anything available. And so for these reasons, an ABLE account is very accessible. But just remember that Medicaid and SSI are already providing 4 basic needs. So these funds are to better the life experience. So it's to provide better services, better supports for the person, better than they would have even with social services alone. And then most importantly will be to keep any records of and receipts of items and expenses paid for through the accounts. For the most part, there is a record of that, because again, these are online transactions. So it's not all the time that you usually have to do this like thorough reporting of every single thing you purchase. You have a transfer history to show pretty easily, but there is a possibility that you could get audited. This is like anything else. And in that case, you would want to provide proof that all the expenses that you have used them for were appropriate. And then for special needs trusts, like, again, the name of that supplemental needs trust, special needs trusts are meant to supplement, not replace, basic support. So Medicaid and SSI are there to provide the essentials, the medical care, the food, clothing, shelter. So we don't want to use our special needs trust funds for food and groceries, for rent and mortgage, or for any kind of utility. You want to avoid paying for things that typically would be covered by the individual's government programs or by social aid. Another way I've heard to think about it is things that enhance the quality of life, again, better it, or add pleasure. These are also the things that us parents have usually had to pay out of pocket for, in addition to government funding. So sorry, I hate to break it to you, but most of us have had to actually still supplement our children's services and funding, even with insurance and waivers and other program availability. So ABLE accounts and trust funds will ensure that there's money available for those things in the future when parents are not. Okay. The next thing we're going to talk about is the different investment options. So you will have some investment options depending on the type of account that you're using. So for ABLE accounts, the money that is deposited in these accounts will usually be put into a very low risk investment. And every state decides what options of who they invest with. So when you're opening an ABLE account, you will likely be asked to choose an investment option offered by your ABLE program of choice. And you can usually change your investment options up to, I think, 2 times per tax year. And there are investments offered by ABLE programs that vary in terms of risk and may offer like FDIC insured options, things like that. And we'll go over how to compare those. For special needs trusts, the investment is decided by the appointed trustee. So take that into consideration when appointing that position or choosing a manager for your trust. Is will that person be able to manage the investments as well as the other responsibilities of the trust? There's also going to be some differences with taxes and fees between the different types of accounts and their investments. So ABLE account fees are again decided by the state that you choose to open the account out of. And they're usually pretty nominal as how much it is charged. And so again, we'll talk about how to compare those. But just side note again, if someone puts money into someone else's ABLE account, it's not tax deductible and it is not a charitable contribution, sorry. However, in 2020 was the last information I have for this. A person can get a gift of up to $15,000 into their ABLE account without the person receiving the money. So without our beneficiary having to pay taxes on it, because that is also the maximum amount of money that can be put into the ABLE account each year. So again, if you just want it one and done, there you go, you can do that. And they won't get charged for that. If you're going to gift someone more than that for kind of any purpose, they may get taxed on it. So just be aware of that as a gift. Now, for setting up a special needs trust, they do have attorney fees. And so these fees are going to depend on what all is done during that time. And because you can get a will created with it and so forth. But each lawyer is going to charge the amount that they think is fair for their practice. So it's going to range. But we kind of say, if that's the case, then maybe think about get in as much as you can out of your hourly charge. Get in as much out of it as you can. So see if you can do a will and a special needs trust and a guardianship, like maybe all at the same time. All of those things are going to require the same documentation, the same paperwork, the same doctor's notes, stuff like that. So once you have the file ready, then I don't know, just you'll have to talk to your lawyer about that. But then first party trusts do come with some income taxes to the beneficiary because there's interest and stuff, and it is investment income, and it's taxed as if the beneficiary is going to receive the income directly, even if it remains in the trust. For those third-party trusts, they're often written, again, very specially to have very little taxes. So again, another reason why it's so important to consider not only using an experienced attorney, but one that is specialized in special needs trusts and have written them before. And then all special needs trusts do file annual income tax returns, but only some of the larger third-party trusts that earn more than they actually distribute each year usually end up actually paying taxes. But they're just be aware there might be additional fees or costs associated with filing taxes on the trusts. And this was a question that someone I think wanted to get back to was and this is actually just one of the last comparisons that we have, and it's the reasons and regulations for Medicaid payback in each of these different circumstances. So with an ABLE account, when an individual passes away, the funds in the account will first go to pay any outstanding medical bills. It can also be used to pay for a funeral for the person. And then at that point, the state does have the right to take what was paid for by Medicaid from the time that the account was set up to go back to pay Medicaid services. So something to consider. I think that there's some states that have passed laws that prohibit that kind of payback provision, but it's not on the website to compare that. And so I'm not sure. Do you want to, does somebody have a question?
Yes, Andrew. Let me see if I can unmute you here. Andrew, I think you can unmute yourself. There you go.
Or you can type it into the chat. Okay. I'm going to move on and we'll come back and see if he still has a question, okay? Because the next one is, we're still on Medicaid paybacks, though. So for first party special needs trust, again, Medicaid will charge what's in the trust for any monies paid by Medicaid that was used for the person's life.
Will you cut this for me? I'm not very trustworthy with how much
We're going to need to do that. Sorry. And so the beneficiary is the person with the disability or the special needs. So again, when they pass, any funds left in the trust can be used to pay back state services. Third party trust, the money is, it was just never in the person's name. So as long as it is set up right, then after a person passes away, the money can be given to the person that's over the trust, or it can be used for, again, for funeral expenses, and then put back into an estate. So we're actually going to, we're kind of wrap up with a practice doing an ABLE account comparison. So again, in Utah and most other places just don't have any.
What? Okay, wait, I'm just having dessert.
Okay. So you can't just walk into a bank and have an ABLE account set up. But for many states, including Utah now, this is new, they offer ABLE accounts nationally. So you can find the information on ABLE National Resource Center, which is that ablenrc.org. And then if you search the compare states, it will bring up the names of all the states that offer ABLE accounts. And you can choose up to like 3 states at a time to compare. And then I think the first question is like, are you a state resident? So let's see, we'll go straight into that. So I picked 3 different states, and I did make sure to include Utah for our example. That's going to be that middle column. And as you can see with this comparison, that so, you know, Delaware will offer accounts to out-of-state residents. So we could choose an ABLE account out of that state. Utah will not, which is okay if we're Utah residents. And then Arizona actually doesn't either. So obviously we wouldn't pick Arizona. And then the second question is there a state income tax deduction or credit for contributions made into these accounts? And so it looks like there isn't a benefit to being a Delaware resident utilizing these accounts. So it wouldn't matter if we lived there or in Utah, that's great. However, as a Utah resident, we are eligible for some tax incentives for having the Utah State ABLE account. And then again, if we were an Arizona resident and using their program, they also have some incentives to offer. So some of the other things to consider as you're comparing these states is that all 3 of them are federally insured up to $250,000. And as you can see, the amount to set up the account, like I said, it's pretty minimal. It does depend on the state how much they charge to initially open the account. So most of them will vary. These happen to all be the same. And then the next question is if there's an annual fee. So as you can see, this also varies by the state, and it's going to be something that you'll want to look into a little bit more because, again, a couple of these states say they're $15 quarterly, and then another one is $39, but it really depends on how it's billed and how you pay it. And then on question 6, it will tell you if they have a minimum balance requirement that needs to be in there to open up an ABLE account. So to open a Utah State ABLE account, the minimum contribution is $1. So for 26 bucks, you can open up a Utah State ABLE account. And then for Delaware, you would need to always leave at least $25 in the account. And then again, sometimes you might decide to put the money from one ABLE account to another. And again, this is just for the same individual though. So say you're just not happy with the institution that the person's money is in, then you're going to want to know if they want to charge you to transfer the funds. All 3 of these states had no fees to roll over ABLE accounts to another ABLE program. But again, that would be a program for the same individual. You cannot roll ABLE accounts over between family members or individuals like you can with a 529. And then they also had no restrictions on the amount of disbursements allowed. So as many transactions in a month as you want, because they all have an option for a debit or purchasing card or have some type of loadable prepaid debit card that a person can use. But also be aware of that. So if the account needs to be monitored or if only a certain amount can be used by the person, you need to set it up that way and limit access to the account. And again, we'll want to watch for those minimum balances in our account in some cases, because then you will see some fees charged for the service, as well as for the service for the card in some cases, like in Utah. And then these last 2 questions do talk about those investment options that we have. So it's the investment of the money being saved. So if you want to look into either the investment managers or the different options that each program has, the information for each state's account options are also available. So Delaware has multiple management options with 6 different investment choices available, where Utah and Arizona only have 1 available manager. So at least, you know, you won't have to struggle with that choice of who to use on that. And then they offer 4 separate investment option choices that you can make, and it's probably risk level. So again, deciding which one would be better for your family is just kind of deciding about these pros and cons. So someone talked about, why would you make that kind of account when, you know, I don't know. But for an ABLE account, even for a first person special needs trust, any of that leftover money goes to pay back Medicaid after the individual passes. However, there's still circumstances that this is a good investment choice to have. So if the money's only solely there to help the child while they're alive, then that could be okay. That's all you need. Especially if there isn't like a lot of money, or if it's something that you will be using as you go, this would be a great option. Or if you're just using it for shorter term savings, that's kind of what those accounts are kind of for. However, if you want the money to go specifically to another beneficiary, then you want to go with that 3rd person, that supplemental trust. And again, when you go to a lawyer, you want to ask how many special needs trusts they have done. And I actually make a note in this slide to tell the story that Tina has, but it's not the only one. We have heard from multiple families that have asked lawyers, you know, do you know how to do a special needs trust? And they said, oh yeah, sure, we do these all the time. But then when the individual, is able to qualify for public health and stuff like that, they learn the trust was not set up as a special needs trust and they have to go back and do a whole new trust. So asking them how many special needs trusts they have done is also an important question to ask, because these are very specific types of trusts with very specific rules that really do affect an individual's benefits, their supports and services that they can be eligible for throughout their lifetime. And then for a lot of us, it might be ideal to have both an ABLE account, again, maybe for shorter term savings or easier access to money, just like your day-to-day needs, and some kind of special needs trust for those larger amounts, or if someone's going to have a lot of money or an actual inheritance of estates, or for larger expenses, if you need to save for something bigger or for a future planning longer down the road. So again, when choosing special needs trusts and or ABLE accounts, this is our disclaimer, you know, the beneficiary or their legal representative, their guardian can consult and should consult either special needs planning attorneys or special needs financial planners about what might be best for that beneficiary's needs. Don't be afraid to get help from a professional, or, you know, to go over your personal financial situation, because these are super important decisions for a family and for an individual's future. So here's just another quick breakdown of the differences between the two. And really those main differences are going to be the age of onset versus when you open the account, their contribution limits, the taxation, their fees, when Medicaid is reimbursed, how funding gets distributed, as well as most of the cost of setting up the accounts, the initial cost of that. And so before we get into questions, I just wanted to throw up some of these resources that I used and say thank you to some of the professionals that helped me understand these things better. But then we're also going to throw up a survey really quick. And it not only helps us to do better presentations, but it also helps, it's used to show the importance of these workshops, and it helps us get funding to do them more. So we'll try and get that started. But then as everybody takes that, we can have some questions or comments, or if anybody wants to like unmute or wants to turn on your camera to participate, we'd love to interact with anyone willing to share their questions, and we can talk about some things for a minute. And again, thank you so much for joining us and for being here, taking your time tonight to listen to me.
Colleen, there was a comment.
Yeah.
From Kurt, and then somebody else is asking to see the last slide again when you have a second.
Yeah.
Can you go ahead and read that comment from Kurt? Did you know that?
I can't see the comment, so you'll have to.
Oh, I'm sorry. Let me
send
read
it to me or share.
I got it.
Yeah.
So it says, Kurt says, so anyone 55 years and older in Utah on Medicaid and has claims that Medicaid pays out will result in estate recovery. There are a handful of situations that exempt a person, but not many. Kurt, that's interesting. I just guess I haven't thought about just that Medicaid piece alone, and that anybody could go into recovery even if they didn't have, you know, these accounts. What I have heard that they haven't seen, I don't want to say they because I can't remember exactly where I heard this, but they haven't seen a lot of ABLE accounts being taken to pay back Medicaid. Now, how true that is, I don't know. Let's see what else we have down here.
And I think that for the most part, I mean, again, like once you pay for your day-to-day expenses, your you know, your funeral costs and stuff like that, there just usually isn't a ton of money left over in those types of accounts. Like that's what they're there for, is we want to use them.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And we're lucky now that, you know, that dad went to bat for all of us and made it to where, you know, we can have accounts. I think of, you know, young people who have disabilities that might be living on their own. And what if their car breaks down, or what if they can't go to work for some reason and they need that extra money, that they have a way to save it now without.
It still took an hour. Don't say when the hell.
Well,
I
and I still think
so-
that people forget, again, like not even with insurance and with these services, like parents end up paying a lot out of pocket on top of these things to supplement their kids' services. And so when we're gone, you know, we want our kids to still have, you know, or our loved ones to still have that quality of life that they're used to, or to be able to just be secure, and so that our other siblings and stuff don't have that, you know, those issues and stuff. But that's another thing that I've actually recently heard of, is when you do leave, like let's say you leave all your inheritance to a sibling with the intent that this sibling will take care of your child with special needs. So they're going to get everything. Again, like they're going to get the house and the inheritance. It'll be their responsibility to then take care of their sibling. However, if they get into financial trouble, if they get a divorce by any chance, that money isn't protected. And so that can also fall into some issues.
Mhm. But if they're a trustee over a special needs
Correct.
trust,
Correct.
it is protected.
Correct. The trust is protected for the beneficiary. Correct.
Yeah. Let's see what else we have here. Shelley says, thank you for presenting such important information. And yes, we will be sending out the slides. Is that going to be by request?
Yes, please.
Yes, please email Colleen, Kenny, or no, just Colleen, sorry. Colleen at utahparentcenter.org.
I left that up there. And then Tina, were you able to launch that poll? I wasn't.
Here we go.
And I might.
You're gonna have to launch. It's that's weird. I think it's gonna have to be you that launches it. Can you get to it?
Nope.
It says I'm logged in from another device. Your polling session is inactive.
Okay.
I've never had it do that before.
Well, you guys are all off the hook tonight. Just, you know. Again, let me know if anybody has any questions or issues or needs some more information.
I do have a couple more comments here real quick. Let's see, it's moving here. Hang on.
Oh, somebody wanted that last screen again. I can try and find that. Let's see.
Okay, guys, I'm scrolling back. Oh, I lost it. What is happening? Okay.
I did see that somebody wanted this. I can have that there too for a minute. That snapshot.
Okay,
I
please,
might have to.
please show the slide comparing able and trust. Okay, that's the one. And then can you address who will be the trustee of the third party trust?
You need to decide that. And again, your attorney or your lawyer can help you with the responsibilities of that designation. But yeah, that's somebody that sometimes it's a professional management. Sometimes it's again, a sibling or another family member. It can be a guardian. It can be a parent. Again, anyone other than the person that it's other than the beneficiary. But again, there are responsibilities to that. And so you'll want to make sure that they understand those and that they're qualified for them.
Guys, I'm just typing her email. Oops, I just want to keep putting your last name there into the chat.
Yep.
And she just put it up as well.
So I think that that brings me to, I think that we're caught up. Did anybody else have any questions or comments? Oh, I'm really sad about that poll.
Let me try it again. Why would I be logged in from another device?
Mhm.
And you don't see it, right?
Well, I do, but it says I'm logged in somewhere else. So Heidi, are you on the, I'm like trying to think of who else would be on here that might have it. Any of our parent center consultants on might try to do that if they've been doing that. But we really do, we appreciate you guys all coming. I'm glad that this was something that there was a lot of interest in, and I hope that it gave you some stuff to think about and some directions to go, and the basic information you need to do some further research for yourself and your family. Yeah, Lisa, if you want to just email me, I can send you those slides.
Melanie, let's ask the question just above. I assume that someone that's not a parent can donate and get a tax deduction for the one donating.
No, none. I don't think that there's any tax deductions for the donations. Is there not tax deductible donations? The resident credits are for the person that has it, that has the ABLE account.
Lisa, you can just email Colleen and ask for the slides. I think this one is such an important one that we are going to request for it to be for the recording to be put up on our YouTube site and make Colleen a star out there. She's a big star. But that may be available too. If you're not familiar with the Utah Parent Center YouTube site, just go onto YouTube and type in our name and you can find some other things there as well. But we'll try to get this one up sometime soon. I'm not going to say when, because I don't know that when our admins have time to get those edited and put up on the site.
Yeah,
all very welcome.
We did not talk guardianship. That is a different workshop. We do have that as a separate workshop, and then Transition University also includes that in their Transition U series that they provide. So look for that. Again, I think it's like a 3-part series. I think that they'll be doing that again in January, maybe the beginning of February. So go to our events page to look for that. I'll put that up here too.
You guys, thanks for all your kindness and your thank yous. We really appreciate that this was good for you and that you really learned something tonight.
All right. So I'm going to sign off. It's 7:30 now. Again, thanks. I really appreciate everyone coming, and let us know if there's anything else that you need.
Take care, everyone. Have a good night. And all you have to do is go down to the bottom right hand corner and to leave the meeting.
And actually, Tina, I'm going to close it out now. So you have a good night as well. Okay.
Okay, my dear. Have a good one.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.